Courts are not doctors. Judges are not doctors. I don't know half the thing that you tell me. Right now, state of Tamil Nadu has a separate enactment for the safety of doctors. We don't have a central act yet. So, for example, I was talking to a doctor from the US. He says that the junior most doctor in India is far more experienced than a senior doctor in the US. Doctors don't want to voluntarily keep your scissors in the stomach and then stitch it. It happens.
Hi, Vijay Aure. If you permit me, I will. Can I call you Vijay?
Please do.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, um, apart from being good friends, I think it's very important that today we bring out a professional aspect in your practice, which is law. And there's a great interest today that we have, especially as doctors, uh, where there is an increasing awareness as well as dependency on law or legal issues that are cropping up in the practice of medicine. So let's just take this conversation ahead and try and address both sides of the story, where what are patient concerns and what's happening, and also a viewpoint from the doctors as well. Most importantly, I think this is a very contextual discussion, given the fact that in the last few months and very recently, just maybe a couple of days ago, there's been an incident in Chennai where a doctor is kind of stabbed by a patient's attender. And so there's a lot of commotion among the doctors community as well. So this brings in a lot of relevance. Thank you so much for joining me on the Scrub Guru podcast, and pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me to do this, doctor. Thank you so much.
Yes. So, first thing first, uh, I do know that you're in practice for about 2.5 decades roughly, and that you have a very successful practice. And knowing you personally, I do understand that you're very knowledgeable as a person, apart from just being a regular run on the mill sort of a person. So, what is the way a certain law is in place for any particular situation? So, fundamentally, how are laws formulated?
Okay. See, laws are legislations. They are a set of rules which are passed by the state government or the central government. So, if a state government passes a law, it is only applicable to a particular state. If a central government passes such a law, it's applicable across the country. That's how it is. So, we have Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, that is the former IPC, and you have, uh, say, for example, POXO, and you have Consumer Protection Act. These are central acts which are applicable across the country. The rest of the thing, there are certain state amendments with, depending upon how a state views a particular central law to be amended, they are amended accordingly. So penal laws are mostly ones that are say passed by the central government. State laws are, well, those laws which are passed by the state legislative assemblies. That's it.
And what is the basis on which a law is made? Like, this is very interesting to know that in a country, there can be a regional law as well. So, are you saying that there can be two different laws for a same situation if you're. So, how does that come into ambit? Let's say a particular thing which is a crime recognized nationally can have a separate law in the state that you're residing, and the government has the power to do that?
No, not necessarily. See, penal, like I said, penal laws are those legislations wherein there is incarceration, or where somebody is sent to a jail for committing a crime. For example, let's take it. We should be starting this with the most devious of crimes. Let's talk about murder. The capital punishment there is the person will be eliminated by the state, or it is life imprisonment. Okay, those things cannot be ordered by the state. That is, though these are laws which are, say, uh, they are the same for the entire state. For example, you have Maharashtra crime, what M Coca. That is a state specific law. Okay, and that's it. In the sense that when there is a like I said, when there is incarceration involved, state governments cannot intervene and spoil this, or they cannot come and try to make a law which can be less effective or less punishable or more punishable for that matter. For example, right now when Kolkata people are asking for a legislation from the government wherein any acts against the doctors should have capital punishment. For example, there was unfortunate incident of a doctor who was and murdered. That is the same in IPC and BNS as well. Anything that amounts to rape and murder, that person, if is found guilty, will have to go through a life imprisonment, or then that offense is punishable by death. Those will not change. But that law, if it is enacted by the state government for specific, say, state of West Bengal,
Hmm.
that is a state specific enactment.
What is your personal opinion about uh, medical law specific to practice of medicine by doctors? Most doctors, especially in India, are not aware of their rights. And most doctors are pretty ignorant about what they must do and what they can do in case they find a situation that they are handling is going out of control. Like, it need not be that somebody is coming and stabbing you, right? It can be as simple as somebody verbally abusing you, somebody threatening you. These are common occurrences that
Yes.
are happening, and there is an increase in this. So, is there a way that there are laws that doctors can use to protect themselves?
Right now, state of Tamil Nadu has a separate enactment for the safety of doctors. We don't have a central act yet. Right? That's very important because you should have one uniform law that is helping the doctors be safe in an environment. See, what happens is in service industry, be it law or, well, I cannot compare law with medicine. Uh, the problem that happens is it's very emotionally charged. We find emotionally charged clients all the time. But when a patient comes to you, or the kin of the patient is like accompanying a patient, it is they are already in a stressful situation, right? So when you are in a stressful situation, they are expecting certain miraculous recoveries to be given to their loved ones or to themselves. When that doesn't work out, the frustration comes out, and that is when mostly crimes against medical professionals happen. They occur. So now, how do you stop that? I was listening to a very senior doctor talking. He was telling me that patients usually come to the doctors at the penultimate time. They don't come. They don't have regular checkups. Unlike you, who advise all of us to have regular checkups, and we don't follow you. We come only when we are in pain or something is really very wrong. So what happens then? What can a doctor do? Correct. Certain times, if I've seen, say, photographs when doctors' mobiles where a limb is and it's almost cut. It is just been stuck to the hand by a skin.
Hmm.
Correct. You have to reach a hospital within a particular a certain amount of time. If you don't do it, then there's a chance that even if they are able to fix it, it will have a you will always be dismembered or you'll look different. So that is something which a doctor cannot change.
Right.
So when these aspects are hurting their loved ones or their kins or whoever it is, then in an emotionally charged environment, crime happens. It's there are always two sides to a corner. So there are certain times where doctors are also negligent, right? They're not aware of it, or they're so overburdened with work. So you make mistakes. When the mistake costs life, right?
Hmm.
The patients or their kids are they supposed to take the legal route, but you have the person standing right in front of you, and what do? You go and attack that person. That is why this happens mostly. It happens among lawyers also. We had an incident where a young lawyer was murdered in the high court some
By the
time ago,
client?
not by the client, by another lawyer. In Delhi, a lawyer was shot by another lawyer. Clients have tried to attack lawyers. These things happen. We are also seeking, we are exactly asking the same things that doctors are asking. We need protection from our clients. Or it's a uniform
That's
issue.
interesting. So I have a view on this, which is I feel one could be what you're saying without doubt that they are under stressful environments where they want a good outcome and they're emotionally charged. Second, obviously, is they could be distressed themselves and not knowing how to handle their emotions, and there can be an outburst that can happen. That is as far as the patient's side is concerned, and that's not acceptable. So, unfortunately, culture cannot be taught to people. So, we will
Correct.
have to bring in a law to protect doctors. But at the same time, I also feel that a lot of times, especially as the practice of medicine is growing the way it is growing in our country, the pain points that patients go through to meet a doctor is getting enormously difficult. In the sense, if you map a journey, where is the irritation that a patient is going through? It's when they call up for an appointment, when they go and wait in long queues, when nobody is attending to them. I feel somewhere from compassion and empathy, medicine is shifting by itself into being a profession of transaction. And that, unfortunately, I feel is also adding the burden on the emotions that a patient is going through. And when they go through this whole aspect that you have made an appointment, went there, your doctor is, uh, you're the last touch point is the doctor, but before the doctor, you're going through security, you're going through a huge crowd, you're getting yourself registered, and then there is a billing that's happening. It's all a mess. Nobody is really attending to you. And finally, when you meet the doctor and he spends less time or does not give you the same attention, either because doctors are overburdened or for whatever reason, and then the outcome is bad, and I think patients lose their temper. So there is a systemic problem even on the side of medical practitioners. I won't blame doctors on this, but the people who put
Yes.
systems into place,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
uh, but getting to more specifics, uh, unfortunately, this has led to, and my fear is that already we have started to practice defensive medicine.
Mhm. Interesting.
Okay, and so what people must know out of this is that if you have drilled me into fear, I am not going to be the Dhoni, right? And medicine is very, very, very much like you need 6 runs in 2 balls.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because people come to us in acute situations,
Mhm.
like you mentioned, that if people are coming on a regular basis, then you're playing a test match because you
Correct.
have a long history, you know when to intervene, what to do. But mostly the way medical care is being practiced today is acute medicine. Somebody has a immediate requirement, they reach out in pain.
Mhm.
But we are not also magicians or god to cure it. But if there is some person who can really cure it, who is that exceptional doctor, he's a Dhoni,
Mhm.
who is the only reliable person for you to hit that sixer that you require in one ball. Now, with this fear, most doctors are going to be defensive because they will want to play the game in the ambit of that particular rule and not want to
Correct.
extend. Who is at loss? I feel the patient community is going to be at loss.
I think both the doctors and patients are at a loss. So, for example, I was talking to a doctor from the US. He says that the junior most doctor in India is far more experienced than a senior doctor in the US, because the sheer number of patients that he or she sees in India
Hmm.
in a span of say half an hour or 1 hour or 2 hours in a government hospital is nothing compared to what these doctors do in a week sometimes.
Yeah,
Right? So what is, like you said, the fear mongering or the defensive medicine, it is preventing good doctors can from,
yeah,
you know, how often do we know the names of doctors? We only know the names of the brands these days.
correct.
That was not the case when we were growing up. So
Mm.
we used to go to a doctor on kai guna chanagide.
Mm.
That's exactly what we used to hear. Correct. And more often than not, we used to get cured by the way he used to speak to us.
Correct.
He spent about 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes with us. Just give us chocolate, have fun. Hey, tinbada. That's it. That's how it is, right? So we used to have a doctor in Hassan, Dr. Hegde. So he used to come with we call him Dab Suji doctor. We used to call him, and we used to get so scared. He's just show it next time. You're not careful. That's good enough for us. I still remember him. I don't remember the last doctor I spoke to in any of the top brands. That that the care that the doctors showed towards the patients, and the lack of the interpersonal skills that the doctors, like you said, defensive medicine is the only way they can follow. But just because doctors are indulging in defensive care or medicine, it doesn't give the patients a right to go and assault somebody.
Correct.
Just because I don't like my neighbor, I can't go and hit him. How can I? The jurisprudence says my freedom stops where your nose begins. So I can move my hands wherever, but as soon as your nose starts, I have to back off. That's something which is very important. Until such time, or until we start educating people about the problems that doctors have, right? We don't even have good TV shows to educate doctors.
Yeah.
That's a and Google.
Oh yeah, that's a big one actually. Google and now Meta AI and Chat GPTs are the saviors for all of our patients. Unfortunately, what patients don't understand is that no two conditions are similar, no two people are similar, no two outcomes are similar. If you look at therapies now, they're all targeted therapies, including cancer. If you see, the previous rule that okay, this is the person, this is his body weight, we'll give him this kind of drug, no, it doesn't work that way. In fact, now there is there is mapping of genetics or genomes, and then they are understanding what will work. So in somebody, let's say for example, if 20 grams of a particular medicine would work, giving this person the same would be counterproductive. Maybe he requires
Correct,
less.
correct, correct.
So there's that targeted approach that's come into medicine. Unfortunately, patients are not realizing this. And then patients also have this, attitude or thought process that doctors over test. It's a double-edged sword. Unfortunate, because I firmly believe that if you are spending quality time with your patients, understanding the concerns deeply, and if your basic medicine is very strong, every disease has a particular sign and a symptom. You do an investigation to confirm your diagnosis. Unfortunately, we have moved to an era where we are not spending this time. And this spending time, people used to think now we have technology. We have a CT scan, go get a CT scan. CT scan will give me the answer, I'll treat you for it. But it doesn't happen that way. What we all are forgetting as doctors is that unless I build that rapport, the patient is not going
Correct,
to disclose
correct.
his habits, because
True.
ultimately, for a good outcome, I have to have your confidence. My medicine is actually not going to cure you completely,
Correct.
right? Unless I understand you as a person. So, why is this over testing happening? One is the dependency on technology to diagnose for you, and two is the fear that in case I don't investigate you enough and you get develop some new problem, then you will be questioned legally saying, why did you not test this? So, doctors are putting patients through enormous amount of testing, I believe, for protecting themselves.
You make a wonderful point. You make a wonderful point. See, this is something which doctors have to know. Medical negligence is not something, it's not about not performing tests, or or performing more tests,
Hmm.
or performing less tests.
Hmm.
It is, in the sense, if you have a problem in the leg, if you are getting CT scan done, if you're getting everything done, it doesn't make sense. Everybody knows that. But see, well, there have been so much of discussion that's happened over several years, wherein doctors have a target, correct? They have to achieve this corporate target, otherwise, well, they will lose their jobs. Like any other salespersons, doctors are also acting as salespeople for their. This may be a very bad way to say it, but when you look at certain people, It appears like that. But there are also some doctors who say, they don't do these tests. It's not required. I will give it to you only because you're asking for it.
Hmm.
Right? When somebody says that, that doctors already have, he or she has already got my confidence. Then the doctor goes on to explain why these tests are required. That makes it, well, if I believe that these tests are required, as opposed to please get these tests done, you go there, wait for half an hour, go here, wait for and in between their inpatient or their patients who was already housed in the hospital, they take precedence and they're still waiting. That adds to a lot of problem. Medical negligence is about specific. There are four aspects to it. Four aspects are: please take good care of them, make sure you take care of them. The case should be given to a patient, and if something goes wrong because of they are not given a care, amounts to medical negligence. They have used fancy words to it. The problem with law is that it is so verbose and so complex. It is difficult for a layman to understand.
Hmm.
When we are facing a problem, we are looking at law. We only see the negative aspects of law.
Hmm.
We don't see the positive aspects of law. Law is not it's not a set of rules to punish somebody. It's a rule to it's a set of rules and regulations to safeguard ourselves as well.
Protect.
Right? How do we safeguard ourselves? Take good care. Make sure that you've done your job, and even after taking good enough care, if something happens to a patient, then you will not be guilty of medical negligence.
Okay.
Unfortunate part of Indian judicial system is that if a case is filed against any person, let alone a doctor, it goes on for 10, 15 years.
Hmm.
Right? If a doctor gets a case filed against him at the age of 30, he'll be a senior most doctor at 45 and still keep going to the court. That is something, this requires a serious look at our judicial process as well, so that especially during COVID, who came to our support.
Yeah.
The same doctors are being looked at with an eye of suspicion. Why are you doing this? In COVID, anything was possible.
I think it's a very valid point. It's time Bollywood actually takes up this
Absolutely.
initiative and understands who a doctor is. Because doctors are also the same human beings. We have the same emotions. Nobody wants to kill a patient. Nobody wants to harm a patient. I don't know of any doctor in my last 27 years of career as a practitioner. I don't know doctors who want to harm people. Second and most important thing is that the life of doctors is a complete mess. There is zero quality of life for a doctor. Like today, uh, when I called you, I was eating my lunch on the way, which is like at 4:45, 5 o'clock.
While driving.
Right? Right. And that's like a routine thing. And we advise people to take care of, because I got stuck in an emergency and I can't say no to a doctor.
Correct.
I don't know the last time when I actually took leave, because every weekend, the so-called holiday that we have, there is an emergency or sorts, and you are there and you're available 24/7 for your patients, right? So it's mentally draining. We do have lot of issues like other people have in their homes as well, right? So we have to step aside all of that and still come and perform, taking risks of outcomes. Unfortunately, I need a comment from you on what is the law's view, because no doctor can assure an outcome. You can have the best intent, you can have the best technology and performance of a particular procedure, but outcome, for some reason, even medicine doesn't understand it completely. I'm perplexed. For all my life, I've thought and gone behind this question as to why, there are two teeth, food gets stuck between two teeth. Why does only one tooth there get decay and not the other one getting decayed? It's as intricate as that.
Okay.
Right? We can, on a broad scale, say that food getting stuck between your teeth causes tooth decay. These are the habits that may, kind of deteriorate your oral hygiene or oral health. But we still don't know. Similarly, there are so many fit people who just get a heart attack and die. Nobody has this answer. Nobody has cracked it. So, how does law view something like this? And when you mentioned that what is medical negligence, now then what is medical negligence according to law?
Courts are not doctors. Judges are not doctors. I don't know half the thing that you tell me, right? You explain, so in a sense, if we start explaining intricacies of law, most people don't understand it,
Hmm.
correct? But there is a judge who understands what I'm saying. He is a person, he's a man who's practiced law, who's been there for quite some time, and he gets to decide what is right and what is wrong. So we have a judge doing that. But if in medical negligence cases, we go before consumer courts, where you have one retired judge, one member, and we have another person. I don't even know who that person is, because those people are not even talking most of the time. They get to decide if it's medical negligence or not. They get to exonerate even if it is medical negligence, because of their lack of knowledge in medicine. They get to decide. Why should they get to decide? That is why in Karnataka we have the Karnataka Medical Council, who we have a set of doctors who sit and decide if it amounts to medical negligence or not. The problem that I see today is that the KMC is taking so much of time on every single case. I have a case pending since 2017 onwards before KMC. Well, I can say I can be on the either side of the table here. Doesn't matter whether I'm appearing for a doctor or for a patient. Either way, both parties are suffering, right? When a patient files a case, he genuinely believes that every single act that the doctor has done is wrong. From his perspective, from the knowledge that he's got from Google. And the best part is that all these cases, you'll also have to take a second opinion. Now, what happens when you go to a doctor asking for a second opinion? There are some people who will give a similar opinion, but they'll say, when you ask a question, is there anything that anything else that we could have done? The doctor will say, this is something you should have done. Was it done in this case? I am not aware. You should talk to a doctor. In the reports, you don't see a particular scan not being performed on a patient. Then what happens? Non-performance of a scan, does it amount to medical negligence? Who gets to decide? One of the doctors that I was cross-examining in a court, he says, why did you make this call without talking to a specialist? He said that it was a judgment call. I had to make it to save a patient's life. Then the next question was, the patient still died. I tried my best to save her. When he says with confidence, not with arrogance, with confidence, and there are other doctors who are supporting his decision to do whatever he did, how difficult is it for a doctor or the KMC to say it is not medical negligence? What he did was fine. Or if the group of doctors decide, no, this test was necessary, it should have been performed, and you made a call, judgment call, which was wrong, which cost a patient's life, then you should be stripped from your license and you should not be practicing. It is as simple as that. The question is, who decides and how quickly they decide. Medical negligence is all about your own community coming and either standing up to you or with you or saying, no, what you did is wrong. Mentoring.
Hmm. Interesting, actually. So, what are uh, what are the doctors' rights in law? Like today, there is an increase in consumerism, and there is a high degree of social media influence.
Oh, yes.
Like, people randomly can go on Google and just write any random stuff. There is no validation for that, which is like public shaming, right? Defaming. I have seen recently in political scenarios where somebody said something about another politician, they're going and filing a case of defamation. So when somebody writes rubbish without even knowing, because millions of people are reading it, right? It is shaming in public. Is there a law to protect this doctor from going ahead and taking action against this?
Yes, there is a law. I will not name the sections because it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. There is
absolutely.
something called defamation. Okay. Defamation is defaming somebody or making statements which are false or which are proved to be false. Already established, it is false. Then that person can be held for. You have civil defamation and criminal defamation. You can do it.
No, I wasn't even going there. Actually, my point of view was I think patients or our communities must understand that doctors being targeted is not going to solve any problem, right?
Absolutely.
because ultimately we must all understand that there is a difficult situation in hand. So, ideally, whenever I have thought of this, I've always thought the way we all practice today and the patient expectation is, here is my problem, here is me, here is the doctor. We
Mhm.
both come together and push the problem to the doctor for a solution. This is never going to work.
Mhm.
The only way this triangle will work is the problem is on top, the doctor is here and the patient
Patients.
is here, and we become partners in solving that problem. Where
Correct.
the doctor says, I'll put my knowledge, skill, effort, everything, you also cooperate, and then let us achieve that particular target to solve that particular problem, for which the binding factor has to be that trust.
Correct. Right. For that, the doctors have to spend much more time with the patients, and patients have to be patient with the doctor while they're talking to a doctor. So again, it's a vicious circle. Doctor, I'll ask you a question. You go to a branded hospital. You meet one doctor. The next time you go for the follow up, you may not meet the same doctor.
Mm.
Correct. So the hospitals also have to understand that it is their responsibility to build the trust between the doctor and the patient. It is good for their business as well.
Mm.
If I'm meeting 10 different doctors over a period of 10 different visits to them, the doctor will have absolutely no idea what's bugging me. All he sees is what's there in the reports.
Actually, that's a very important point. I think doctors are also victims and patients are also victims of a system that has been created in the garb of streamlining medical practice and care. And I think the ethos or the essence of an interaction between a doctor patient relationship building is completely destroyed now, and we're just operating like a transactional event that happens between a doctor and a patient. And then there's technology now that's come and taken over, saying that we will diagnose, we will treat, we will do everything.
Are you a law graduate doctor? No, I'm just curious because you've done so many things. So this is much better and more articulate than the way what I said. Makes perfect sense. That's exactly what I wanted to say, by the way. Okay.
So, so coming to patients, it is wrong for us to believe that every doctor has done the right thing and every doctor is doing the right thing with the right intent. It is wrong assumption, because even doctors are human beings. So what are patient rights when or if they feel that there is something better that could have been done? So what is the right way, instead of you challenging the doctor physically, hitting him abusively, going to social media? Is there a healthier approach for patient rights?
See, there are two aspects to it. One, during the course of treatment, the patient and his family members or his or her family members believe that this doctor is not giving us the right kind of treatment. So that is not the time for you to go and take a healthier approach. First and foremost is to make sure that the patient is fine. So you find a different doctor. That they don't do, right? In the sense, if you have a doubt, first, like we discussed this already, first is Google. Then you talk to some other patient who's already been through the very same. I had the same issue some time ago and I'm fine now. That's exactly how it starts, right? Oh, our doctor did this. No, he's no longer here. That is the genesis of all the problems. Then what happens is, assuming that things go wrong, touch wood, and the patient has to go take a recourse to the court of law. What can he do? He has to first file a medical negligence case with the KMC, and then to if he or she is so focused on ensuring the doctor loses his license, then he has to file a complaint with the KMC, then go file a petition with the consumer courts.
Hmm.
Like I said, it's a vicious circle. Consumer courts are not the authority who can decide whether there's medical negligence or not, and KMC is not being proactive. It is a doctors collective, the tribe. They have to come together to help solve these problems. Now, how do you solve the problems that doctors have right now? We always look up to somebody, correct? We always have our own seniors who have taught us or whom we want to follow or be like, at least if not 5% of whatever they used to be. That's the way we brought up, right? So these are the ones who have to come and help the doctors, the junior doctors and the future doctors,
Hmm.
to enable those new young doctors, which whom you mentioned just now, are also empathetic towards the patients. Empathy, patience. If the doctors don't have it, then patients, there are chances about 1 or 2% of the patients will take law into their own hands and they'll be physically abusive.
What what is your view on, let's say somebody comes to you seeking help. Um, do you have a right of refusal to take up a
Yes.
case? And how do you make your judgment? Because, like we were discussing, let's say a doctor comes to you. It could be the doctor's fault, but he's coming to you seeking help. It could be a patient coming to you seeking help for feeling that there was a medical negligence. In both the cases, is there a way you actually evaluate whether there is some merit in what is being told? And in cases where you find out that no, I'm trying to protect somebody who actually is guilty, you still go ahead and do it? How does that work?
Sorry. Guilt, a person is innocent until proven guilty. Okay. So even if is when we started discussing this, or probably we have had multiple discussions before. In India, it is mostly the crime is just a offshoot of the emotions, right? For example, doctors don't want to voluntarily keep your scissors in the stomach and then stitch it. It happens. It happens, right? That is medical negligence.
Mm,
Doctor is, he says, close it, and I'm walking away. He's done his job. Somebody else does it. The doctor gets blamed for it.
mm,
These things happen. So what happens is, as a lawyer, I am unaware of the procedures of the processes. I do not know. For example, we handle a lot of technology related matters. The the engineers, they come and give me so much of technical gyan which I don't understand. Right? Then what we do is, then we start analyzing. We start sending notices to the other side to understand why this thing was done or why this particular aspect was not done. Then we get your response. Then we check with our clients, and if required, we also go and speak to other experts. If there is a 25% chance that there is a possibility of a medical negligence, or if there is any possibility of a guilt, we are bound to fight a case on behalf a, of a client. We have to do that. But there are sometimes you get to know this. This guy has filed several cases against doctors before. Okay, we call them code birds. So he enjoys, he revels in getting this attention, standing in the witness box and giving evidence and blaming everybody else. They like it.
oh, I didn't.
Oh, I met it. Oh, I've met people like that. So many people like that, right?
Mm,
And there are some people who are genuinely in distress, and the only way they can get out of this, say for about 5 or 10 minutes, and they get a respite, saying, "Okay, fine, I was able to hurt this guy." He's filing multiple cases against one person.
mm,
That's also a possibility. Although he is right, the other person is so powerful. It could be a doctor or anybody else. So the only way for him to get that respite is to go and file a case or multiple cases against them. That is when you decide whether you want to be part of this nonsense or not, because it is nonsense to somebody. If you have a person who is hell bent upon bringing somebody down and you are part of this journey, it is not worth anybody's time. My job is not to bring somebody down. My job is to go and present my client's case to the best of my abilities. I don't judge.
mm.
I present my case. The most, even if it is difficult, we have a lot of difficult cases. Our job is to be persuasive and let the judge decide.
Mm.
Like you said, no, you want to blacklist somebody, I can.
If you see, doctors hardly protest. This is the first time that we are seeing that in that Kolkata case, there's protest going on for so
What are they
long.
protesting for?
Well, they're protesting for safety. They're protesting for so many.
Justice, getting that person to be arrested, or who's arrested to be punished. Doctor, legislations will not save doctors' lives. It is the doctors themselves, their tribes, they come together, they help you have a better life. They need to be educated. Like you said, you have to go speak to the patients. And it is very important that women doctors, or women in general, are protected in hospitals all the time. You need to have security 24/7. Like we mentioned some time ago, there are hospitals in the night when you walk the corridors, it is so dangerously scary.
Hmm.
And the hospital corridors are so big, and most of them are places where tests are conducted and nobody's there. Anything can happen. This incident in not incident, this murder that took place in Kolkata also was in a very remote place, although it was.
Correct.
How do you do that? Legislations will only protect you after the incident has occurred.
It's not preventing.
No.
Yeah, I think there has to be a more proactive approach to this entire aspect. And I famously remember this anecdote from one of our spiritual masters, Srila Prabhupada, who
Mm.
founded ISKCON. He said this, that there is no solution for material problems by material solutions.
Mhm.
He
Very
said
interesting.
all material problems can be solved by spiritual solutions alone. And at that time, when I heard this about 27 years ago, I didn't quite understand it. But every time you're living your life and that is resonating in your head on how could we solve a particular problem, and most often than not, you find that you're truly not getting solutions to this, is when you realize that that statement was so powerful. And so, if we all internalize and have this thought process of developing an attitude of being spiritual and grow internally, then you will understand that the patient is going through painful journey, his family is going through, and truly speaking, even the doctor and the entire medical community is focused about the patient. Nobody has seen in chronic illnesses what their families are going through. Is there a way we can help them? That should be our attitude. At the same time, if the patients also develop or the community develops the spiritual thinking or higher thinking, they'll also know that the doctor is also another human being who's trying to treat. And I have a real example of this. I was serving a tribal community in HD Kote,
Mhm.
and there is a hospital there for the tribal community there, run by Dr. R. Balasubramaniam, who's a great man who has dedicated his life for the cause of these tribal people. And there was a hospital there, and they've been there for the last 36 years almost. So I went and asked him, how does all of this happen here? Suppose somebody dies, you don't even have technology, you don't have access, it's a forest in which you have a hospital, and so on and so forth. He said it's a reverse problem here. Nobody blames us. It is that if suppose there is a death, the entire family comes and consoles the doctor. I was aghast. I said, what an ideal environment. So he says that there are so many deliveries that happen and babies die. The mother, the father, the family come and console the doctor, saying, thank you so much for giving your best effort in trying to do what is possible.
Amazingly
Right? And
forward-thinking work people.
isn't it? And we call
Yes.
them tribals.
Yes.
And that is right here in Karnataka in HD Kote. But this has been built not just because of the tribal community alone, which is hats off to their thinking, right? They are so great. Education truly is that value system,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
Absolutely.
And we having degrees doesn't bring it, but also the way Dr. Balasubramaniam and his team have conducted themselves with those people shows that trust truly can be built. And that is a day that we all must look forward for in the practice of medicine and truly help our communities live healthy.
So it's amazing story. Very amazing. I never heard something like this. Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
going to quote this in the code very soon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, on this note, I think thank you so much, Vijay, for being here and
Thank you
spending
so
your
much
time.
for having me.
It was a pleasure again. And hopefully, we will catch up on
I got
more.
to learn more than what I just said in the most, what you say, layman's language, what you articulated better for the medical community.
Well,
So next doctor I meet, I'll use your language.
absolutely. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Sir.